Hello again and welcome back. My name is Lydia, and on this channel I remind you that I share real life stories and practical tools we can learn from them for navigating life's transitions, because change is inevitable, and so none of us have to feel alone while we grow. Well, I used to think school was just about grades. Now I've realized it was my first lesson in identity. I talked about my elementary experience. That was first grade. Now I want to tackle probably between third and fifth grade. That was a time that I had. The school I went to was called Kibuye Mixed Primary School in Kisumu, Kenya. Shout out to you if you're an alumni. Thank you for being here. Drop me a comment and let me know if you are one of us who went to Kibuye Mixed with our yellow tunics. So bright you couldn't miss us anywhere. Well, I had friends. I had plenty of friends. I tended to be someone who made friends easily, easygoing, happy-go-lucky, generous, always sharing, just regular. But I think my personality just stood out. Also because I think I was made class prefect or monitor all the time, so it was just a part of everybody knowing me every time. So there was no missing me in school unless there was you were not in my grade or something. But even those who were not in my grade tended to know who I was. So there was this thing that used to happen a lot: comparison with other people, or comparison with other schools, comparison. I don't know, but probably if you grew up in my era, maybe not. There's a lot of comparison. Why can't you be like so-and-so? Why can't you be? And I saw that in school a lot. Our teachers, I would say some were really good, some were not. I think depended on their personalities, and then also how we grew up with authority. A teacher was an authority figure, and what teacher said went. Few times did any parent question a teacher. Still happens to date sometimes. And it can make your child feel like you really don't know them, or you are not there for them, or I don't know. Discipline was high up there in terms of ranking. Being a good girl or a good boy was what you had to be, with very little options of if you were someone who was naughty to be that. There were structures, and just as I said before, everyone was everyone. So there was no making a mistake at home and thinking that at school you're going to get away with it, or at school and thinking that at home you get away with it. Those people spoke. Those people touched base. Anybody could punish you at any time. You would be walking and someone would be like, yeah, she did that, and they would just get on you. So this comparison thing, I go back to it because I feel like students or kids tend to have this set box for them that you gotta fit in there. And what I didn't like sometimes is I wasn't very good at math. I was a very good student in the other places. My strengths were in, English. I wrote one of the best essays, articles, expressed myself really well. Swahili too, history, CRE. I think the other side that was not math. Science I did well, geography I did well, physics I did, but when it came to math, there was just something. So this comparison thing hit me both ways. I would hear, why don't you write like Lydia? Why don't you speak like Lydia? Why don't you? Because I was always in the straight A's. And then when I failed the math or didn't do as good, It was, why don't you be like? So it's almost like there was an expectation of being good at everything. And I don't know if you had this, but every parent when I was growing up was always first place. And we would be asking ourselves as kids, so whose parent was never first place? And we'd be laughing. So going back to this time that I thought I was really, really confident was we had exams, and exam was a huge part of our lives, whether it was the KCPE, which was KCSE first. KCPE, man, I get confused. Kenya Primary School exam. I'm not going back there. There was a primary school, so that's grade 1 to grade 8, and then there was a secondary school exams. Those were huge ones, but in between here there were a million other exams. And so my confidence levels were very high because despite being a little bit not so good in math, I was excellent at every other thing. So my average grade was still excellent, if you ask me. So I'm used to being called to, during assembly, to be acknowledged for the good job I'm doing, or you find on the list the boys were in blue, the girls were in red, and all the list you find my name up there in red. So this one time I'm confident that that's gonna happen. Guess what happens? That's the time I don't even feature in the top 20. And my world is shattered because I'm asking myself, how am I going to explain this to my mom? What am I going to say? What happened? And there was a time now between 6th and 8th that I completely changed into a different person. I was softer, mellow, which is not my usual character. And I remember, oh my God, this is something that I don't like, but I didn't know how to express myself. So I'm saying this because sometimes things happen in someone's life that really does something internally that if you are not keen enough to see as a parent, as a friend, as someone close, you might miss, or you might miss the opportunity to support them through that time that they might need you. And what I also learned is that school was the first place where we learned labels. You are smart, you are quiet, you are too much, you are not enough. I don't want to say this, but you are stupid. We even use those words. And I wish someone had told me back then that you are not becoming someone. You are already someone. So that the confidence levels would go back up. So if you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're a child right now, if you're wherever stage in life you are right now and you're listening, remember, you are already someone. There's no circumstance outside of you that's going to fundamentally change who you are. Okay? I hope we learned something from that today. That's the end of one of our stories today. I'll go into the next one as I tackled those exams, very feared exams. Alright, if this story resonated, please subscribe and come back tomorrow. I'm telling this journey in order. I want to remind you, it's one chapter at a time, and just the next piece might be the one you need. See you next time.